listening to Footscray Live.
Welcome everyone, broadcasting live from Footscray City College. You're listening to Footscray Live. My name is Hannah and with me I have Archie, Yasmin and Carter. This is the Sustainability Show and our special guest today is Dominique Emery. Hi Dominique, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Thanks, Hannah.
My first question for the day is, what does Green Collect do and when did it start?
Sure. Green Collect are a local business. We're based in Braybrook and we're probably more than a business actually. We're really a social enterprise, which means that the entire foundation of our organisation is based on the environment and our community. So all of the work that we do needs to have an environmental outcome and a community outcome. So the particular environmental outcome that we look at is focusing on diverting items from landfill. So we're a zero waste organisation. And when we operate, we have looked at what are the kind of items that end up in landfill. And we focus at the moment on office and household items. If you can think of an office and how many items they have in them, and where all of those items go when they're basically discarded, when you no longer need them anymore. So we're looking at diverting all of those discarded items from landfill.
You talk about what type of rubbish that lands in landfill. What is the most popular sort of plastic that ends up in landfill?
I'm not sure about the entire type of landfill, so we're just focused on office, really. The types of plastics are really hard to recycle, so they come in various different types of polystyrenes, in various different types of hard plastics. The items that they tend to be, so it's often more sort of, we tend to think of items rather than types of plastics. Folders is a really big one that we do. So I can step you through the story of a folder maybe in a moment. If you can think of a folder, a lever arch folder that we use every single day, often. Lever arch folders are a bit on the out because quite frankly, we're all going digital. Who needs lever arch folders to be holding pieces of paper anymore? Yeah. But if you think of what the item looks like, it's got a thin sheet of plastic on the outside. Inside of that plastic is a piece of cardboard, which makes it nice and stiff. Inside that lever arch folder, there's then a piece of metal. Now, if you're going to recycle this, we need to pull apart the materials from one another because we all know that cardboard gets, separately recycled to plastic and plastic gets separately recycled to metal. But how do you do that? It's not a complex item, but we in our office, in our warehouse, I should say, we get 1,000 items a day, and every year, in the last year, we got more than 26,000 lever arch folders. Wow. It's a lot of lever arch folders. What do you do with those? At the moment, before they came to us, they were destined for landfill because it's actually too complex. You have to pull apart the materials from one another. So we literally strip them, pull apart the plastic from the cardboard, pull off the piece of metal, and those three then go into 3 different bins. That is how you save something from landfill. You pull it apart and you send it to recycling. Before that, an even better outcome would be to reuse it. So we do also sell them because reuse is a better outcome than recycling.
Yeah. So just wondering, what impact does Green Collect have on the local area?
Yeah, sure. Well, rubbish is an issue. It's a local issue.
Yeah, of course.
We don't actually want to be shipping our rubbish, our landfill, to another country. So reducing the landfill here has an environmental impact. Another impact that we have, which I haven't really got to yet, is the social impact of Green Collect. So as I said earlier, we have an environmental impact, but we also have a community impact. And that is through employment. So Green Collect employs people who have previously faced barriers to employment, which is a bit of a technical way of being quite broad about the inclusive nature of Green Collect's employment. People may have faced homelessness. And this is, maybe I'll go back to perhaps the start of Green Collect, which, Hannah, that was one of your original questions. when Green Collect started, one of our founders, who's Sally Quinn, who's our CEO, she was a social worker, and she recognised that some of the people who she was working with had been homeless and had faced various different challenges in their life. Now, when you're homeless and perhaps you're facing crisis, it's really hard to get a job.
Yeah.
Because, well, for one thing, a really simple thing, when you fill in your job application form, you don't have an address to write in. And once you start to face some of those barriers, then it's actually very difficult to secure employment. So Sally and her partner Darren, they actually started the organisation wanting to employ people who had already faced these challenges.
Right.
So at the moment, Green Collect have created around about 38 different employment opportunities. That's at the moment for people who have previously faced barriers to employment. There are other reasons why they may have faced, various different challenges, but long-term employment has made a huge difference in these people's lives.
Yeah.
What, Archie here, why are you passionate about Green Collect and the environment?
Is that me personally?
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it, so thanks for asking that. Look, I do get frustrated with rubbish. I don't like rubbish, and in fact, in some ways,
Rubbish is rubbish.
Rubbish is rubbish. It's totes rubbish. In some ways, I would actually love the organisation to not exist, because I would like the problem that we're addressing to no longer exist.
Exactly.
I would like, actually, for us to have zero waste to landfill already, and for us to already be processing and using the resources that we have really, really well to the maximum of their absolute use, to be taking items and using them completely, to be reducing the amount of stuff, rubbishy stuff that we already consume and create. So, based on the problem, which is we are completely overstuffed with things and our landfill is completely growing, completely unnecessarily, that's where Green Collect is actually really stepping into a niche. And it's something that I've been passionate about, I must admit, for a really long time. I have wanted always to work in compassionate work with people, and now I get to particularly work with the planet as well. So Green Collect's kind of pairing of working towards outcomes for people and planet, it's pretty great for me. And addressing what I actually see as being a super serious problem in our community is a great outcome for my work as well.
So this is Carter here. How can students get involved in Green Collect?
Sure. Look, students to begin with, you are students. You're also people who use things, as we all are. There are some things that particularly students use a lot of, which is stationery, pencil cases, notebooks, pens, highlighters, love our highlighters. Every year at the moment, I was trying to think what's happened, kind of with schools at the moment. You get your book list, and often the book list gives you lots and lots of stationery that you're somehow supposed to buy new.
You could just reuse.
You can reuse it. That's a great idea. It was Yasmin who said that. You can just reuse it. And really trying to think about, well, what are the things that you use at school, and how can you perhaps reuse things? How can you buy secondhand? I know that notebooks are a really difficult one, but there are lots of other things that you use secondhand. Be proud of maybe wearing a secondhand uniform. Be proud of maybe being able to repurpose books, being able to repurpose stationery, and encourage other people to do that as well. So that's a really practical thing in a school environment. Beyond that, I'm going to go to Christmas, because you know what? Christmas is coming.
Heaps of
Christmas
paper.
There is paper, but you know what? I'm going to take you further than just wrapping paper. So actually maybe considering
Plastics on the toys.
Plastics around the toys. Consider purchasing secondhand gifts.
If you're just tuning in, this is the Sustainability Show on Footscray Live with our special guest, Dominique. So with such a focus on environment these days, are you seeing that people are getting better at disposing their equipment items better?
Yes, I would say that people are much more conscious of it. So I'll take you actually to our office environment. So big businesses in the city that have previously they're just doing an office refit or they're moving, they would have just hired a skip. Now they're really considering taking on Green Collect, and rather than getting a skip, they will get a Green Collect cage. So we deliver the cage into their office environment, and they fill it with actually a really wide variety of items. So Green Collect are a hard to recycle specialist, and we get every day 1,000 random items coming into our warehouse.
Yeah.
As you can imagine how random they are, our staff are very skilled at sorting them out, and sometimes pulling them apart as well. So we're finding that more and more businesses are looking for what we call a triple bottom line. If you haven't heard of that term before, triple bottom line is where your business works towards 3 outcomes: making a profit. Now, we all know that businesses like to make a profit, but they have 2 other outcomes as well. And one is a social outcome and one is an environmental outcome. So as they are looking to make social and environmental outcomes, they're looking to organisations or social enterprises like Green Collect to be able to say, yes, you know what, we want to divert our discarded items from landfill. We want them to stay in the economy, and we want to be supporting employment opportunities.
So, Dominic, what is it that you do in Green Collect, considering you're so passionate about it?
I am pretty passionate about it. Thanks, Yasmin. I'm what's called the communications manager. Well, today I'm here sharing the stories of Green Collect. So essentially I do share the stories of Green Collect and the impact that we make. So I do like to talk rubbish a little bit.
Literally rubbish.
I do. We've got social media, so I manage the social media platforms.
Yeah.
I manage the blog spaces on our website, and I manage the website. I have a fun sort of small part of my job that is super fun. That means I go out into schools and kindergartens and talk about the work of Green Collect and engage
cool.
young people
That is cool.
in the work of reducing items to landfill.
How many firms do you work with?
We have about 100 clients who use our services. So we are at what's called a fee for service. So the offices that we collect from pay us to safely and responsibly dispose of their items. Many of them are quite big kind of corporates. So your big kind of city office blocks. We also work with government departments. And we also work with local councils. So some of you might have had some items that you need to discard of, say e-waste or x-rays or various different things that you need to, or batteries. Some councils, maybe in the library or something, there'll be like all these different collection boxes. So you put your x-rays in one and you put your batteries in another, you put your e-waste in another. Green Collect will work with the council to be the organisation that takes those and sorts them.
Yeah. So, just wondering, I'm in year 9 and I'm going into year 10 next year, and we have work experience, right? So I was wondering, if students do work, can students do work experience at Green Collect? And if they were to do it there, what would they be doing?
Yeah, look, it would depend on the various different interest levels of the student, so you'd need to apply. The type of work that we do, there's 2 main ones. One is the resource recovery, so that's literally a warehouse environment. So that's seeing and assessing the different items that come in and being able to process them for their best environmental outcome. So their best environmental outcome, we're obviously checking, can you reuse it? Is it good? Can you, if you can't reuse it, can you upcycle it into something else? I'll get into this in a sec because I really want to talk about upcycling. So if you can't then upcycle it, then it's grading it for recycling. We are a zero waste organisation, so we do work towards zero to landfill, which means anytime you see a normal red-lidded bin or something, ours are empty. We really do not see that as an environmental outcome. We do not want any waste to go to landfill. So that's our warehouse. We also run 2 retail stores. There's one in Yarraville, it's called Green Collect, it's in the Yarraville village. And there's one in Brobrook, just on Ashley Street near Central West. And from those 2 retail outlets, we sell the things that come in. So and also a whole range of clothing and household items. So Braybrook is really focused on secondhand clothing, secondhand household items, and secondhand electronics. If you need a new computer screen, Green Collect in Braybrook is your total place to go. Because they've got lots of discarded office items that are really, really good condition. iPods and gaming consoles, there's also a few of those sorts of things. In Yarraville, well, it's a village, and it's a bit of a nice store.
Food.
Beautiful clothing. The clothing there is more oriented towards designer. Very, very good quality clothing, jewelry, and kind of like little homewares, as well as all of the things. We do have a new range there. There's a whole lot of things that you need to live a green life. Things like stainless steel lunchboxes, so you don't have to have a plastic one. The beeswax wraps to wrap up your food so that your sandwich in your lunchbox doesn't need to be wrapped in plastic. Metal straws, reusable cutlery, a whole range of stuff like that to really reduce your plastic and reduce your impact on the environment.
Speaking on the earth, are you fearful, the way that we're going, are you fearful that what might happen to the world in the future is in an environmental sense, if that makes sense? So
Sure. I think that fear is not particularly helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly got to a point of looking at our environment and being very aware that the impact that we have already made on our environment is making a negative impact on the possibility of human life on this environment. So I don't actually feel like I need to look to the future to realise that we are in dire straits right now. Greta Thunberg uses the expression, our house is on fire, not our house is going to be on fire. The bushfires in New South Wales are an excellent example. If we were there, then we wouldn't, we would have a very different conversation right now. So am I fearful for the future? I think that actually the future is now, and we should be, perhaps not afraid, we should be aware and taking very serious action now. Our waste to landfill needs to stop now, and it can stop now. Our carbon creation needs to stop now, and our investment in carbon absorption, the technical term for that is trees, that needs to start now.
Yeah. So what can we do to stop like the carbon into the environment and reduce our plastics and stuff?
Yeah, sure. I think I've probably covered a few of them. There are simple things like just looking at the plastics that you consume and saying, you know what, I'm no longer going to buy that. If you already have a plastic lunchbox, don't go out and buy another one. You know what? Use it already. It exists already. Use what's already there. Invest in planting trees. We've got a school environment here. Really look at making sure that you support carbon absorption and have lots of conversations with people. Conversations like, hey, maybe if we're going shopping on the weekend, let's hit the op shops. Let's choose secondhand things for Christmas.
If you were to choose, if you go to your shop, how much are the stuff there?
Depends. Oh, you mean the Green Collect store, don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
do you
the
mean
tops or
the
like
cost?
the cost of it, like most stuff there.
Yeah, I could be really tricky and talk about the environmental cost of them because things don't just cost an environmental outcome. Every item that we look at has an environmental, a social, because a real person has made that item, and a price tag on it. So that's part of what I often push people to be thinking about. Thinking about, well, I'm in Kmart and I could buy a T-shirt for $4. What's its environmental and social cost as well? That's our triple bottom line. Ask these questions with everything that you're buying. What's its price tag? What's its environmental cost? What's its social cost? Has it actually been made by somebody who didn't get paid fair wages? Yeah. It's a serious question. It's probably not one that I've addressed today, but being paid fair wages is something that Green Collect is also really passionate about in our employment.
Of course.
So, going back to how much does a T-shirt cost at our store? Well, as with everything, it depends on what its quality is.
Yeah.
And, kind of kids' clothes cost a little less than adult clothes.
Yeah.
And if it's a designer item, it's got a designer price tag.
This brings our show to an end. Thank you for joining us, Dominique. That was Dominique, who's part of the Green Collect. My name is Hannah, and I'd like to thank my panel, Archie, Yasmin, and Carter. This has been the Sustainability Show on Footscray Live.
You're listening to Footscray Live.